You know, as far as rust is concerned, this Green Ghost is turning out better than I thought. It's probably one of the cleanest 116s I've ever seen. Even 15 years ago, this car is pretty old. You know, it is literally it is 36 years old. So it's pretty amazing to find one this rust-free. You know, the only way you're going to be able to determine the extent of the rust on these old cars is to get underneath them. If you can't get them up on a lift, you're going to have to jack them up. You're going to have to get the wheels off, and you're going to really have to poke around at some key points. Now, I'm going to move the camera in close here now and kind of show you some of the key points I look at right away, determine whether or not the car has any evidence of rust. One of the first things I look at are the jack points, or the jacking holes located here in the rocker panels, both front and back. If this car has ever been, or any car has ever been subject to road salt, then this is the area that you start to see evidence. You'll see rusting up in this hole, and you'll even get moisture in behind, and you'll start seeing a little bit of rust showing up around this edge where the weld is. Now, if I poke on this, and that's what you want to do, you know, take a look at it, but poke around right on the outside of the weld joint, because that's where rust can form if there's ever been any road salt, you know, that's washed on these rocker panels. But look at how solid that is. If I scrape off some of this undercoating, you can see that it is really clean. There's a little bit of surface rust, but this is an exceptional jacking point that you will see on these 1985 and older models. After removing the tires, I look very closely inside these wheel wells, particularly on the front and the back where you have a lot of water coming off the tires. Once again, if the car is driven on road salt, you're going to see evidence of rust, particularly around these plugs. These body hole plugs, they'll rust right around the edges here. You'll also see rust forming right in this area because dirt and crud traps down in this part right here. But the thing I really look at are the edges, where this is the factory body undercoating. And if there's any moisture that's gotten up under this edge, you'll be able to peel the body undercoating off and you'll actually have rust holes in behind. I've seen this so many times. So don't be afraid to poke around a little bit here, particularly this area right here and right down in here. Now you're looking at this and you're saying, Ken, I don't see any rust at all. Well, watch this. I bet you I can find a spot, okay? Because I've never seen one of these older models that doesn't have any spot of rust anywhere, and it's usually trapped in under this body undercoating. So I'm going to peel off some of this body undercoating. Look at that. This is why I just detest this heavy factory undercoating. It actually can trap moisture and cause rust. So there you have it. See that? We got some rust under here. And if I start peeling this off, okay, here we go. Look at that. On what you would consider a totally rust-free car, I've got a rust hole right there. And like I say, I've seen this so many times. So this is one area that you really want to inspect closely. Any of these areas under the fenders, inside the fender walls that have been heavily coated with this factory rubberized undercoating, what happens is any spot of moisture gets up in there. You can see how this one, there, moisture got up in underneath the body undercoating, and it's actually worse than having no undercoating at all because that moisture can't dry out. So you see I've got, and then I've got a little on this bottom edge. So right in here, I can no longer say that the Green Ghost is rust-free. Now this is something I can fix very easily with Miracle Paint and fiberglass cloth. You've seen my other videos on this. This is an excellent place to do this type of repair. I'll shoot Miracle Paint up in this hole and coat this whole area, and then I'll put the fiberglass cloth over it, and then I'll come in and spray it with some texturized undercoating, and you'll never be able to tell this has been repaired. So I'm going to have to go poke around on the other 4 areas underneath the wheel wells, but you can see, don't be surprised. It's almost impossible, unless the car has never been driven, to find one that's 100% rust-free. But this is getting close. Let me show you a couple areas that I look at. While you're under the rear fender well, after checking the front, you want to come back and check the back here. Right along this bottom edge, you get a lot of junk. Look at that. See the amount of junk that gets impacted right along this edge. So you're going to get rust in here. You can get a brush and kind of clean this out. But this doesn't look too bad. If I start poking with this, yeah, the undercoating feels good. I'm not feeling any rust in here. But this is a real common area right in here, and you'll see rust bubbles start to form right here if this is a problem. I do the same type of inspection up here underneath that front fender. In the back part of the wheel well, once again, this is the area that gets blasted with water. You look forward too, but generally there's not too much rust up there unless you've had problems with road salt. But you'll have problems right in this area, and if you have a W116, you'll have problems behind this plastic panel because once again, moisture is getting trapped there. But I'm just checking, once again, the body undercoating, seeing if I'm finding any loose places that I can pull back like we did on that rear fender. But that looks okay, so I think I'll go ahead and pull this cover off. Let's see what's underneath here. Here's a good sign right there. See that? Look at the condition of that sheet metal screw. Still got the cadmium plating on it. Okay, this one's not too bad, a little bit more rust on that. And I'll have to pull this front screw out here on the bottom trim piece. Okay, now let's see, let's take and maybe I don't have to pull this all the way off. I can just pull it back far enough to check it by removing one more screw up here. Okay. That's pretty good. Look at that. There's the seal, original seal still there. That seal helped keep some of the moisture out, but look at how good this is. Here you can see the problem I talk about in a lot of my other videos. Anytime there's penetration into the body, that's where the rust starts. Look at this little screw hole here. See that? I'm going to find a little rust starting right around the screw hole. This is why I always recommend coating these type of screw holes with miracle paint when you're doing restoration just before reassembly, because that's where the rust starts. And if this had been exposed to road salt and that got into there, this area right here, you'd see a big rust hole growing right in here. So this looks really good. This is probably, once again, one of the best 116s I've seen under this plastic panel here. Now, as one final check on this right side, I'm going to pull this chrome strip off underneath the doors. I've hardly ever seen one that doesn't have some rust trapped in here. There's two screws right here that hold the bottom of these fenders on, and this is typical of the 123 chassis, the 116 chassis. You pull these bottom strips off, you always see rust. So let's see what we see on the Green Ghost. This is a real good test to see how clean this car is. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You still see the green factory paint, and there's no rust right here. This is so common right in this area to see a lot of rust. And all these holes with all the plugs, if I pull this chrome strip the rest of the way off, look at that. There are no rust spots on any of these plug holes for the chrome trim. That scores an A+ in my book. And of course, you're going to want to inspect the whole underside of the car very carefully. This is kind of an obvious thing. It's very easy. You can get on a creeper and roll into the car, but let me tell you, I'm checking things over on this one, and there is no rust. I'm looking at the whole rear end unit. There's no rust on the rear end unit. I'm looking all the way up both sides, inside of the rocker panels, areas where you normally see, extensive types of rust, and there's nothing. I mean, this really is amazing. Now, other than the 2 spots, I did find another spot. It's a little bit smaller on this left rear rocker, right at the back edge. Just a small spot. Once again, it's moisture entrapment from that body undercoating that was put on at the factory. But other than those 2 areas, there's nothing. I mean, there's maybe a couple little places of surface rust, but this is really one nice rust-free W116. And as far as rust is concerned, this car's passed the test with flying colors.